Why does it seem like Verstappen's victory broke out a new trend of controversies in the world of F1? We all know about Lewis's run-in with the FIA multiple times, but this one got them disqualified. Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton were riding high on what seemed like their best weekend in 2023. They were giving Red Bull and Max Verstappen a run for their money, showing their strongest form yet. But just when things looked promising, disaster struck in the form of an ancient rule, nearly 30 years old. This obscure rule about the thickness of the plank assembly under the car, dating back to the days of Ayrton Senna and Roland Ratzenberger, caught both Mercedes and Ferrari off guard. Imagine, even the great Michael Schumacher fell victim to a similar regulation back in the day. In the midst of this excitement, both Mercedes and Ferrari found themselves disqualified at the United States Grand Prix. This unexpected turn of events not only shook up the race, but also highlighted the enduring impact of age-old safety rules in Formula One. Just when they thought they were on the brink of victory, these teams were reminded that in the world of racing, even the oldest rules can come back to haunt you. The racing world has been buzzing with controversy ever since the introduction of the new ground effect rules last year. Teams have constantly been under the microscope for what seems like a game of cat and mouse, especially when it comes to skid blocks that sneakily slide beneath the car's floor. These skid blocks are crucial in maintaining the right height for the car and ensuring safety. However, teams have been suspected, and sometimes caught, adding insulating materials between the plank and the floor to manipulate this height. This saga led to numerous adjustments in regulations, with technical directives being issued multiple times, most recently after the summer break this year. The root of this issue lies in a simple yet pivotal factor: every team's desire to run their cars as low as possible, especially given the rules in place. So, why did Ferrari and Mercedes find themselves caught in the Austin debacle? The unique sprint weekend format for this Grand Prix played a significant role. Typically, teams have 3 free practice sessions to fine-tune their setups. However, in Austin, a single 1-hour practice session before qualifying on Friday complicated matters. Teams had to lock in their setups, and restrictions applied immediately. This was especially challenging on a bumpy track like Austin. Mercedes believed that the sprint format was a major factor in their miscalculation, especially since they were testing a new upgrade in the US. The lack of a full race fuel load in Friday practice forced teams to make educated guesses about the severity of the bumps. Then, during the race, aggressive use of curbs added another layer of complexity. Judging the right ride height became a tricky science, one that Mercedes in this instance got wrong. As Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff candidly admitted, while some teams got it right, Mercedes didn't, emphasizing that there's no room for error when it comes to these stringent rules. It's a reminder of the fine line teams walk in pursuit of performance, where even a small misstep can have significant consequences in the high-stakes world of Formula One. In the aftermath of the controversy, the stewards emphasized a crucial point: it's the responsibility of the teams to ensure their cars comply with the rules. There have been instances where teams, out of concern about plank wear, have made changes after the sprint format's park-firm conditions, as seen with Alpine in Baku this year. However, such changes come with a price, as the teams risk starting from the pits. Looking back, both Ferrari and Mercedes inadvertently painted themselves into a corner with their setup choices, unknowingly leading to the outcome on Sunday. Their decisions, made without foresight, played a pivotal role in the unfolding drama. Now, why were only 4 cars checked after the race? The FIA conducts extensive legality checks post-race, covering a wide array of aspects. However, it's impractical to inspect every detail of every car. So discretion is applied. For instance, each car is weighed, but only specific components, like surface aerodynamic elements, are scrutinized extensively. In the case of floor edges and front-rear wings, only the Red Bull of Sergio Perez, the McLaren of Lando Norris, and the Alfa Romeo of Yuki Tsunoda were subjected to rigorous tests. Notably, 1 car from each of the top 4 teams was chosen for this inspection, a strategic move rather than mere coincidence. Furthermore, the choice of cars isn't always random. The FIA can pick specific ones, especially those that have appeared close to the legality limit in recent races. However, certain checks, like the physical floor and plank wear inspection, are not always on the agenda. For instance, post-race checks for floor and plank wear were introduced in Singapore. Interestingly, No cars underwent this examination in Japan or Qatar, perhaps because the perceived risk of plank wear was lower due to specific circumstances in those races. These decisions by the FIA underscore the complex interplay of rules, circumstances, and strategic choices, shaping the unpredictable world of Formula One, where both the teams and the regulatory body navigate a maze of technicalities and considerations. The distinctive nature of the circuit and the sprint weekend format set the stage for potential trouble with the plank wear issue. This likely prompted officials to specifically target leading cars for compliance checks. Interestingly, there are no provisions for sister cars to be checked once an infringement has been found. This loophole means that unless Hamilton and Leclerc were exceptionally unlucky, or their teammates' cars were running slightly higher ride heights and would have been found compliant, Ferrari and Mercedes might have avoided disqualifications for their other drivers, like Carlos Sainz and George Russell. There could be other teams or cars further down the order that escaped scrutiny simply because they weren't checked. Now, why did Red Bull seemingly avoid these troubles? It's not a matter of Red Bull getting away with something at the expense of others. The fact is, Red Bull's car was checked, and it complied. Red Bull has often had the ability to run lower without triggering issues seen in other cars. This capability is likely due to its sophisticated floor design and more compliant rear suspension, allowing Red Bull to manage plank wear effectively. Plank wear has been a concern for Red Bull at specific tracks for a while. In Singapore, for example, the team faced difficulties due to plank wear concerns. Even in Belgium, Verstappen and Perez had to lift every lap before Eau Rouge to prevent damaging the plank. In cases like these, the Red Bull can't run lower than others because everyone's limitation becomes plank wear. This means that even Red Bull adjusts its ride heights accordingly to ensure compliance. While this approach impacted Red Bull's aerodynamic efficiency, forcing them to use a bigger rear wing like other teams, it was crucial for maintaining legality. So when it comes to Red Bull, their compliance with these regulations is a result of careful management and adaptation rather than any sort of special treatment. Now let's talk about Verstappen's win in Austin. He clinched victory by just a slim 2.2-second margin at the finish line, but getting there wasn't easy. First off, he had a rough start, beginning from the third row due to a cancelled qualifying lap for crossing track limits. During the race, he skillfully weaved through other cars, all while carefully managing his tyres on a track notorious for wearing them out quickly. To add to the drama, Verstappen faced brake issues early on. The brake pedal felt unresponsive, making it hard for him to gauge which tyres were on the verge of locking up. This forced him to brake cautiously, which, ironically, increased the risk of his front tyres locking. Despite these challenges, he expertly balanced conserving his tyres while overtaking the Ferraris, ultimately securing the win. Surprisingly, he wasn't disqualified, although his car was thoroughly examined. Now, about Mercedes upgrader. There was a lot of excitement about Mercedes' new floor upgrader, especially considering Hamilton's strong performance. However, questions emerged after the race. People wondered if this upgrade might have caused the disqualification. Did it give the cars an edge that pushed them too close to the limit? It's a hot topic, and the real impact of these changes will only become clear in the upcoming races, starting with Mexico. Hamilton believed that the significant improvement in pace came from being able to push the car harder and extract more performance than before. Hamilton, in response to his disqualification, stated that it doesn't diminish the progress made with the upgrade. The team remains cautiously optimistic that these improvements will translate into future races. The true impact of these changes will only become clear in the upcoming Grand Prix, starting with Mexico.